if you're not willing to do things differently, things aren't going to change. And so if you want to open up new doors, you're going to have to create some new patterns in your life. And when you do that consistently over time, amazing things will happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's a message that people really, need to think about. And if you want something, whether it's, friends or success or being healthy, right? Like, I think that's the most important thing. You got to be willing to do what it takes.
Purpose in the Youth. Purpose in the Youth. Purpose in the Youth podcast. Welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only Bobbbaaaay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only Bobbbaaaay. Today in the studio, John Pinto, co-founder of BoomBoom. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm awesome. Happy to be here.
Let's go. Got the Boom Booms ready to go.
Let's go, baby.
We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get real high quality content, and you're gonna be on your way up to San Fran for the weekend.
Yep.
It's gonna be all gravy.
Love it, man.
I want you to think back to 2015 when you were kind of about to go all in on BoomBoom, right? Mm-hmm. Think back to that John, that mindset he had. What would be the one piece of advice you would give to him as he's getting ready to just throw all of everything he's got into this company?
Oh man, I'd say believe in yourself, man. Don't roll in with any hesitation and just go for it. I think I probably, at least initially, held on a little bit too tight. Probably could have maybe hired a little bit sooner, but other than that, it's all about mindset and going after it and not really caring what other people think, and just believing in your product as well. I think that's the most important thing, right? The
believing in yourself. I think sometimes people hear it so much that it goes in one ear and out the other, but it's unbelievable what can happen when somebody has a vision for an idea and you kind of just, it's like, even to this day, I get so happy because I'm like, they don't understand what I see. Yes. They are not seeing the vision that I see. And when this comes to life, they're gonna be like, damn, I should have listened to this guy.
For sure. I mean, 2015 was kind of when I went all in with it, but the product had actually been around for a little bit of time. And so I had been going around LA for a few years, actually giving out samples to people and like seeing people react to the product for the first time, and it always being very positive for the most part. And so I always saw that, but most other people aren't giving out BoomBoom randomly at parties or wherever. So they don't see that. So they may not understand it or get it, like kind of looking from the outside in. But when you have that like experiential data, like constantly all the time from like giving out samples and getting feedback, it was pretty exciting for sure.
Especially being in person, as we were talking about before we fired up this podcast. There's something about being in person and especially when you want people to try a product, right? So it's one thing if you're sending them a free product, through the mail, and you say, let us know what you think, and they write back, great product, John, really enjoyed it. But when you can see them open the packaging, fire this thing up, and try it in front of you, you can see their facial expressions. I would imagine that's when you're really getting to see, on a small scale, wow, we could really be onto something big. If this is what this person is feeling, what could this be to the masses,
For sure. And it's such an interesting item too, because you put it up your nose. And like, most people associate putting things up their nose with either being sick, like cold or sinus products, or, drugs. Yeah. And so
I didn't want to say it.
And so like, honestly, there was always this like apprehension around trying it because like, oh, I'm not sick, or, oh, I don't want to put something sketchy up my nose. But once you get over that barrier and people actually try it, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And people are like, oh, okay, I get it.
It's good for you guys. It might seem like it's a drug, but it's actually not. It's a positive drug for you. If you want to look at it like that.
It's a personal care item.
Yes.
It's
personal care item.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. We'll get into a lot more of BoomBoom and everything that you guys have going on today, but I definitely I appreciate painting that picture of the guest before we get into it, so people can really see how did he get to where he is today. I think that's super important. Take me back to Phoenix, Arizona. That's where you grew up. What's this environment like for the young childhood of John?
Yeah, Phoenix is amazing. I love Arizona. If I didn't want to be in Southern California, I'd absolutely be there. But I grew up in a very happy household. Both my parents are actually chiropractors by trade, but like functional medicine, not your typical like kind of pop and crack chiropractor. It's more about like whole body, kind of looking at lifestyle, and some body work, but also like diet and all of these things that kind of affect like who you are. So I definitely had kind of a more of an alternative upbringing in terms of healthcare. Have a sister. She's also an entrepreneur. She does, she's an esthetician. So she does facials and has her own skincare line. And she just hired her first employee.
Let's
so
go.
Man,
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's
so
huge.
And both my parents have their practice. So had that kind of entrepreneurial family. Played sports growing up. I ended up playing basketball kind of all the way through. But when I was real little, I swam because it's like 120 out during the summer. So it's
the only sport that you actually definitely want to be a part of. It's so hot out.
Yeah, it's like summertime. You'd like go swimming or you would bowl, indoor or like in the pool.
Hey, you could have been the next big bowler. You never know. You could have been on ESPN.
Yeah, exactly. And then, that kind of rolled into football season. And then I played basketball and ended up taking basketball kind of through all the way. But I love Arizona. I mean, I highly recommend living there if you don't want to be in Southern California.
Southern California is where it's at. But we have enough people, so go to Arizona. Go to Arizona if you're listening.
We have enough people here.
We have plenty of people.
Yeah.
What was the first job you ever had?
First job I ever had, I worked at it was a Holiday Inn Express, and my dad's buddy has like a hotel management company, and so he got me a meeting with like the owner, and I think I was maybe 14, 15 maybe, and I would shampoo the carpets. And dude, on my first day, they had this big kind of like industrial carpet cleaning system, and like the first day it broke. And so I went to like Bash's, the grocery store, and I got like the rental rug doctor, and I was like rug doctoring these like hotel rooms, and like, that was for his summer. So
you were stoked about that job.
Oh yeah. First job, killed it.
How old were you at the time?
I think that was 14 or 15 maybe.
I'm always curious to hear. I always ask the entrepreneurs that question because I always find it very interesting that they start working at a very young age. They start to hustle regardless of what their parents do or the environment they were raised in. They find a way to start hustling early on, which ends up being a very important trait that they learn as they're doing their own businesses today.
100%. I mean, before that, I collected basketball cards. Like, I remember I had like the Topps Chrome, like Kobe Bryant rookie card, and I was like, yeah, like this is sick. And I sold it. I got like $800 for it or something.
800.
Yeah, it was like one of his best rookie cards. So like little things like that, I was always trying to like collect and
flip money,
flip them. I went to my parents coughed up a little bit of cash to go to the Michael Jordan basketball camp. It was at Santa Barbara. I think he hosts a couple of them every summer. And you get like one like upper deck authenticated like autograph thing that you can bring. So like I brought the ball and like, I sold it. I don't know. I don't need this one.
You're smart. You see the money. You're like, I don't need this ball. I need to cash out.
Hilarious.
I need to make some money.
So that was kind of the first of my, I guess, hustling.
Yeah.
When I was early
the passion for basketball, was that always something that you just were like, this is possibly something I want to do as a career, or was it more of just I love it so much I'm going to keep working on it, but I don't know if this is really what I want to do?
I definitely loved basketball. It was fun, man. I played through college. 2 years. I quit. I ended up quitting college because I was injured a few times and I was just kind of done with it. But no, I love playing basketball. I think my height didn't hurt, so that was always kind of like the default was like, oh, well, like kind of just stick with basketball. And then we started like travel ball and all that. I was never the guy like jumping out of the gym, but I definitely like was a good team player, worked hard, and I could shoot, definitely can drop some threes on people. Maybe not anymore. I haven't played in a while, but
he's talking up that game. But he'll
I
step
haven't
on a
played
court
it
tomorrow. It's not going to
Dude,
look too good.
No, I literally like my hips, my knees, I probably, barely touch the rim now.
Yeah, you never know. It's like riding a bike. Once you get back out there, don't downplay it too much.
Yeah.
With both parents being entrepreneurs, though, how important do you think that was for you? Like, what were some of the biggest lessons that they were kind of teaching you as a kid?
Yeah, I think just watching them, kind of from afar, being able to create their own lifestyle, I think was like really cool to see. They weren't, they were grinding it out, but it's because it was their choice and their business. And I was also, I was able to go into their clinic, and like my dad would work on me, and like I was playing sports and stuff. So like
that
I
goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah,
as you're playing basketball.
Yeah, it was great.
Little shoulder injury. Father loosen you up.
Yep, exactly. So I was definitely like pretty integrated as a kid, like with their practice, just as a patient. But then, seeing, my mom she stopped practicing and wasn't actually seeing patients. She just took over and actually managed the business. And then my dad was the one that kind of carried on, and he's been doing it for about 30 years now.
Still doing it today.
Oh, he loves it. He's
really,
he will see patients that have had like chronic health issues for their 20 years, whatever it is. And they'll come see him for a little bit of time and change a few things, get him on a few supplements, some lifestyle stuff, and results, So
were they
pretty incredible?
Were they big in your childhood about eating good things and making sure you guys were, I mean, you're playing basketball, so you're working out a lot, but was that something that early on they were like, you're eating good foods, we're feeding you guys salads, you're eating the right things?
Yep. It was, and I don't really remember too much of it, but I remember like, I think I had my first like cheeseburger when I was like 11.
Wow.
We had like a chicken and fish and stuff, but when I got into like middle school is when they really started like loosening up. We'd go hit like Taco Bell and like, whatever it was. So it wasn't like super crazy, but definitely early on, I remember it being like, the house that was like giving out raisins at Halloween, like that was my parents, but it's it's funny thinking back to that.
I always had a homie that his mom would always make these amazing cookies, so I was always looking forward to, I gotta go to his house this weekend because I know his mom's gonna have the cookies on deck.
Well, my buddy Dan, that was the house that I'd go to that was like, the chocolate chip cookies and like the chewy bars and like this and that, and it was always kind of a joke as we got older. But
your parents didn't know, right? Like, they don't know what's going on at this household.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't know. So you end up going to Emory University, and as you kind of mentioned, you went there to play basketball, you get injured, but you go in and you end up majoring as business admin and management major. This is out in Atlanta, Georgia, for people that don't know where the school is. If I had asked John on the first day of class of his freshman year, John, what did your dream job or career look like? What would he have said?
I knew that I wanted to go into the business school, which you get into, I think it was like your junior year. And so I probably would have said something in finance. I didn't know what, but I was like thinking banking or something like that. And I didn't know though. I just knew I wanted to go to a school that had a business school because I was always interested in business. I didn't really know what that meant. But that was what kind of led me to Emory. I had looked at a few schools for basketball, but they had a business program. So
what was it about finance that you were interested in?
I don't think I had an interest in finance. I just thought that's what a big part of business was, the finances.
Yeah.
And I guess at Emory too, there's a lot of kids from the Northeast. A lot of them go right to New York to work for the big banks. And so that was kind of like in my head too. And I always thought maybe that was the path of like getting into business. I honestly didn't really know too much. And at that time, didn't really think too much about entrepreneurship, at least right out the gate.
Yeah. Were you somebody that was really busy in college? Did you have a lot of free time? Were you active with clubs? What was that 4 years looking like?
Well, basketball, the first couple of years was a big commitment. I also did a fraternity, which was an amazing experience. I did Sigma Nu at Emory, and have a ton of friends from that frat all over the country.
Oh yeah.
So that's like, that was a whole thing. And then, once I got into the business school, I tried to get as involved as I could. They had like a business leadership conference and whatever, and just kind of like worked my way into some of these things, even though maybe I wasn't like super qualified.
And even in these events, there's still no peak of like, I want to be an entrepreneur.
I think it was probably after my junior year where I was like, I knew I did not want to go work for a bank in New York. I was like, maybe one in LA or like West Coast, but I was pretty certain I did not want to go work at a bank in the East Coast, and nothing against that. It just didn't really feel like my vibe and something I could see myself doing. So
you end up graduating, and this is when you become the first employee for, I think at the time it was called HUMAN.
Yeah.
Helping unite mankind and nutrition, which is now Snack Nation.
Yep.
Which is huge, right? I think they're massive. But you go out, and that's in LA.
That's in LA.
And you had always wanted to live in LA, so
Yep.
this is like a great opportunity to get you out there. So at the time, you're a campaign advisor manager for this healthy snack vending machine company. You're their first employee, and you end up spending 5.5 years with the company. Mm-hmm. What are you learning, and what's changing about John in that 5.5 years?
Sure. So when I first moved out to LA, I had nothing going on, right? I basically had come out a couple times. I was like walking the streets of like Beverly Hills,
Hollywood Boulevard,
I was literally walking the streets, like going into banks. Like, even though I didn't really want to get in a bank, I was going into like bank branches and seeing like, hey, like what's like, are there job opportunities? Like, and quickly found out that I probably needed to live in LA before I could actually kind of secure something. Mm-hmm. And when I was at home, living in Phoenix after I graduated college, I was there for maybe 6 months. I was, looking online every day, like Craigslist, basically looking for jobs. And this healthy vending machine company had popped up, and I was like, oh man, like this makes sense to me. Like, startup, the ad they wrote, really kind of pulled me in, and I was like, this sounds like me. And so I ended up applying, and I had packed up all my stuff. I was driving out to LA. My girlfriend and now wife, she was already in LA going to dental school. And I got a call on my ride over, and they're like, hey John, like we want to interview you. This is, Sean from HUMAN Healthy Vending, blah, blah, blah. So I had that interview teed up right when I moved out, and ended up becoming their first employee. And it was me and the other two owners. And it was just like business boot camp. I mean, wow. The business was actually, we were selling franchises to other people who were looking to get in the business. So they had kind of proved the business running their own vending machines with like healthy snacks. So think about like, you go to a vending machine, instead of it being the standard kind of junk, it was healthier for you items. And so we were like selling people all around the country, and we were going to get them in these locations. And I was just like thrown in the mix. I mean, I was doing operations, I was doing sales, I was doing, everything basically that they couldn't handle or didn't want to do. And that business started to actually really take off. And they were like, I think we built that part of the business to maybe 50 employees. And so wow. I had an opportunity to like hire a bunch of people. I was ultimately like managing people. And that was where I really felt like I got like my business sense, It's
like, kind of the benefit of being one of the first employees, because you're getting your hands dirty and all the little pieces of the puzzle, but you're going to see it all firsthand.
100%. It was awesome. But that, working, when you have that kind of internal desire to do something on your own, you can only kind of make it so far before you feel that pull even more. And I guess at year 4, I was like, guys, I think I got to make some moves like this. I just can't do this anymore.
Why?
I was just over it. I was
the company, the product, the schedule.
I wasn't into like managing. At that time I was managing the sales team. Yeah. And that takes a certain type of person. And I think I did an okay job, but I wasn't like super, super passionate about it. Right. And so I was there kind of almost in a default role, like, hey, this is now where you're at because you've been at the company. And so I took it and ran with it, but I then was like, I can't do this anymore. Didn't want to do it anymore. Talked to Sean and Andy, who are the co-founders, and still building that business today. It's now a little bit different, but I said, look, guys, is there anything else I can do here? And there were a couple of projects that they were talking about, maybe throwing around, and they were like, kicking around the idea of starting this e-commerce division of Human Healthy Vending. And that was sending snacks to people, like in a box. And I said, that's what I want to do. I was like, I'll stay on if I can lead this project. And for the next year and a half, built out what is now Snack Nation. So I was building, like, they're building boxes, like figuring out like how many snacks can you fit in the biggest cardboard box possible, and decided that we were going to go direct to businesses instead of consumers, because nobody was going direct to businesses. It was all this like consumer business. But with the vending company, we had all of these office leads. All these smaller offices were like, hey, we want your vending machine, but it didn't warrant having a big expensive vending machine. So we're like, hey, why don't we call all these people and try and sell them a subscription of healthy snacks? And sure enough, that worked. And before you know it, we were hiring salespeople. We had a fulfillment person.
This is like round 2 for you.
Yeah, this is round 2. And I was like kind of a mini, like an entrepreneur, if you will. I kind of had full range to do what I wanted, but also was kind of doing everything at the start. Like I packed all those boxes for probably 3 or 4 months, like thousands.
Wow.
I was selling the people. Then I was packing the boxes. I was ordering the products, like, and that was when I was like, okay, I can do this. I can be a business person on my own. I didn't really know exactly how it would unfold, but went at it for another basically year and a half. And then the whole BoomBoom thing.
Now, when you're being the entrepreneur, right, for this now round 2, this Snack Nation, are you finding that you're reporting to Sean or the other guys and they're telling you, no, you're going to do this differently? Like what was the I'm not actually enjoying this anymore?
They gave me free reign to basically do whatever I wanted. They were there as a sounding board. And if I needed help, like great. Cause they had this other pretty big business on the other side of this thing that they were managing and running and had a big team. And so it got to a point though, where I was like, all right, I don't know if I want to build another business for 4 or 5 years unless it's my own or something. Yeah. So I got to a point where I felt like I needed to move on.
Yeah. And I respect that. You see your own work, but you know, at the end of the day that this isn't yours. And I think there comes to a point where people realize that maybe I do want to build something of my own, or they've helped other people do it, which is great because you could take all those lessons and experiences and just replicate it into your own, and then make things happen. So talk to me about how this product BoomBoom comes to life. How does this first start off as the next project, the next thing that you take on?
Sure. So kind of going back to the beginning, it's a pretty crazy story. My wife, Chelsea, at the time, she was my girlfriend. Her brother was throwing a party in LA. This was 2009. And he had some kind of TV thing he was launching and was throwing a party. And he's like, guys, you got to come out for it. It was called Tracer's Tables. It was a DJ show / cook show. He's like a DJ, but he's also cooking. I was like, all right, sweet. Like, let's go out to this party.
Sign me up.
And so we go to this party, and like, this was like before the Cataracts played, this was like back in the day. And we get there, and on the table is a bunch of BoomBoom. And I'm like, this is a cool product. Let me try it. But, I'm like, oh, wow. I stuff my pockets with them. I probably took 30 of them. I go back to Emory and I go to the frat. I'm like, hand them all out. Everyone's all fired up on it. Right. Fast forward to after graduating. Right. So this is about a 6-month period. Driving to LA.
This is 2010.
This is 2010.
Okay.
I'm driving to LA. I go to my Human Healthy Vending interview at Sean's loft with the other co-founder, Andy. And I walk in and there's this big tub of BoomBoom. And I'm like, hey, like, I know that product. Like what? And he's like, oh yeah, that's my other business. And I was like, what? And
you hadn't seen the product since that point?
No, I hadn't looked it up online. I hadn't thought about it, but I knew it was a very intriguing product. And so I walked into that and he's like, I have that going on the side. And so I was like the first employee at BoomBoom and at Human But Human just like took off and grew really quickly. And BoomBoom was always this like side thing that was sitting in a closet for years. I mean, I'm talking 6-7 years collecting dust.
Why wasn't there being more attention put towards it?
Because the money was coming in through the vending company.
Yeah.
And like we made like the Inc. fastest growing companies. Like it was moving. And so this just always took the back. Side project. And so, you know, fast forward back to, but meanwhile, I'm in LA for these 5 years giving them out. Like, and people are like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Like, so I'm seeing all this positive feedback. And then when I end up leaving Snack Nation, Sean was like, what do you want to do with BoomBoom? And I said, look, man, I'll go all in with it, but you know, I want to be co-founder. I want to, you know, have a big chunk of the company. And we ended up coming to terms that I was stoked about, and took it on, man, full on. We had like maybe 10,000 units literally in the closet at
Just
Human, sitting there, and like maybe 10 grand in the bank account. And I said, all right, man, like let's go.
What like inspired them to start this then? Like where was BoomBoom stemming from? Because I had read on the website about this trip to Thailand.
Yeah.
That they were seeing people that were using their own nasal inhalers.
Yep.
What is the reason that BoomBoom even came to life in the first place?
Yeah, so the idea stems from Thailand, right? And so in Thailand, like daily use inhalers are everywhere. Everyone has them in their purses, their pockets. There's like probably 10 or so brands in any convenience store you go to. And that's where the idea came from, but they're kind of more like earthy and medicinal smelling. And so to have something a little bit more like flavored and appealing to like the US customer base, it always just kind of resonated a little bit more. And then when I was introduced to the product, having that background of like holistic health and like essential oils, like I've known about the essential oils from when I was little because my mom and dad used them. So I was immediately pulled in and was like very fascinated with the product. And the original BoomBooms were actually made in China, and the first shipment didn't make it into the US.
No way.
Like none of the product got in, like a big chunk. And so that it kind of just died. And then I was here on the side, like kind of rebuilding the supply chain while we're still doing Snack Nation and Human stuff. And it took a while, but ultimately ended up rebuilding the whole business here in the States. And so now we have our manufacturer here, like all the pieces of the puzzle are right in Southern California. But you know, building a side business while you have a full-time job, it takes a little while. So I was kind of doing that. And then ultimately it kind of came full circle and worked out for me to be able to take the lead and make it happen.
It's so interesting because it makes so much sense that they have one business that's taking off. We're going to put all of our time, energy, and money into this and just throw this in the closet.
Yep.
That makes total sense to me. But what's even more amazing is that their first employee ends up taking this and then making this really a business instead of something that's just sitting in the closet and collecting dust. Talk to me about the actual product itself. BoomBoom. You guys have all these different flavors. We have the melon laid out right now, the cherry, we have all these different flavors. How are these products helping people?
Yeah, so here, I got one for you.
Let's go.
Yeah, baby. Let's go.
So, last couple of days, I've been just using them because I'm just trying to get in the mood.
Yeah,
for this
dude,
podcast,
for sure. So that's the melon.
Shake it up too, right?
Yeah,
shake it up a little bit.
It's an all natural nasal inhaler. It's got peppermint, eucalyptus oil, spearmint oil, a little bit of menthol.
Melon drop.
Yeah.
I haven't had this one yet. Oh.
You smell it. It makes you feel more refreshed.
Instantly, it reminds me, and I don't want to say this because it might be a competitor, but it reminds me as a kid putting Vicks on underneath my nose when I was sick, and it would just instantly clear up my entire body.
Yep.
But that's exactly what.
Yeah, it's super refreshing. I mean, it definitely like activates your sense of smell, and your sense of smell is very powerful. It's also pretty underutilized, especially here in the States in terms of like leveraging it for like focus or being more like alert and awake. And we are very careful with what we claim, but it definitely does help you feel kind of more present and alert, and just it's not like a sustained energy, if you will, like you'd get from maybe like a cup of coffee or a Red Bull.
Yeah.
But it is going to kind of perk you up a little bit and help you feel refreshed. We talk about it being refreshing, kind of like getting off of a plane and like going to the bathroom and washing your face. Like do the BoomBoom too. You're going to feel way better.
Now, is this something that you would recommend people would use on a day-to-day basis? Is this something that when they're traveling, you know, how do you pitch somebody that they need BoomBoom in their life when there's so many other things going on in this world, right? Like you need your green teas, you need your coffees, you now need your BoomBoom. Like why should people be using this to awaken their senses?
Yeah. Well, it's more about kind of leveraging your sense of smell and understanding that your sense of smell is super powerful. It's also tied to memory. So when you have something really kind of nice and potent to smell, it can kind of trigger certain things. And funny like little side story. BoomBoom, like we've sold to some like random people, whatever. And I want to say this was almost 2 years ago now. I was like a one-man show at the time, like customer service, all that. I saw a customer service inquiry come through and like, hey, like just read about your product in the Wolf of Wall Street book, the new Wolf of Wall Street book or whatever. And I immediately went on Amazon, and Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, just dropped his new book, Way of the Wolf, and literally has an entire chapter talking about like anchoring, like mental anchoring, and basically uses BoomBoom as his tool to anchor into like positive states of emotion, right?
Wow.
So he's like telling salespeople like, hey guys, like when you're on a really good call and you're getting fired up, like use your BoomBoom and tie this scent to like those positive feelings. So when you need to get back into that mental state, you can kind of trigger that with BoomBoom. We don't go too deep into that science and like our marketing. You can read some blog posts on it, but for us, we're more about like, hey guys, why do you chew gum? Right? It's refreshing. It makes you feel good. And that's kind of more of the line for like the common user is try it. You know, keep it in your purse or your pocket, just as if you'd have gum or eye drops or chapstick. It's, you know, it's another thing to do.
It's interesting because this morning when I'm in the gym, I could hear this guy playing music. Of course it was extremely loud and I could hear it through his headphones in the sauna, and I wanted to knock this guy out. Yeah, in the sauna.
Nice.
The 15 minutes of my day, I don't want to hear anything. But what was interesting is I could hear the music he was playing, and it reminded me of maybe like senior year of my high school. I couldn't think of the artist, but I could hear it and I could tap to the actual like song. And so I'm thinking about what's going on in my life, and then as you're saying this with smell, I believe that's probably very similar too. Of when you get home and you get back to where you grew up, and there's a certain smell to it, or there's so many other instances too. I just like I smell something and it triggers these memories. So you have Jordan Belfort, who is the Wolf of Wall Street. And it makes so much sense because, if you can tie success or positivity to a certain one of these smells, because there isn't really anything else out there that people are buying that that can trigger that. It's amazing because you can probably align both and find positivity or certain moments in your life. Strategy of getting this out there when you finally took on the business. How are you getting this out there? How are you talked about earlier going out to people and seeing them actually try out the product, but how else are you getting BoomBoom out to as many people as possible?
Sure. So when I started, there was another part of this was, you know, going out, partying in LA, having these in my pockets, like, man, like people love this stuff. Like went to my first rave downtown after I graduated and like literally I was at a show and I saw people using Vicks inhalers, which I had never seen before. And I was like, man, like people, like there's lots of people. And I like gave them some BoomBoom and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so I knew the party scene, like really, really would love the product if they tried it. And so when I first started, even though I knew it had a bigger audience and a bigger picture, like my own vision, like long-term, I knew that I made a very intentional choice right when we started to go after the party scene. And when I made that choice, I said, okay, this is where we're starting. People already know about Vicks. They're using Vicks. You know, this is a healthier alternative, right? Vicks, their older versions had like an active ingredient that was lead-methamphetamine. It's super bad for you. That's another story. But anyways, I was like, I'm going to DM everybody. And like, these were all people like rave scene, party scene, whatever. And I said, hey, like, love your style. I think you'd love our product. Do you want to try it? If so, let me get your address. I did that for probably 6 months, man. I sent out hundreds of packages, and that's how it started. And I was on Instagram like back in the day. That was like, you know, whatever, when was it? 2015. Yeah. So that was 2015. And that's how
it feels like back in the day.
God, it's been a long time.
4 years, a lot has changed within the platform and just social media itself.
Yeah. And so that's where it started. And then that kind of spiraled into going and vending at festivals. And we started to really kind of dial in our online marketing, and we put out like a kind of a funny, like ridiculous rap video that got a bunch of views. And that's really how it started. But I knew initially it was gonna be an e-commerce business. I wanted to prove the concept online. I wanted to build the brand online, and going out to the festivals. And we usually hit, at this point, we're doing like 6 to 8 a year probably. It really closes the loop from like people seeing the product online and then being like, oh, there's BoomBoom. I've seen them online. And they'll come up, they'll buy one, and then they love it. They're hooked. And then they'll come and reorder online. So we've seen a lot of growth kind of going that path. And then Amazon has just been a really amazing platform just for like organic searches.
Yeah.
People buying Vicks, being like, oh, like, what's that? You know?
Yeah. Has it been difficult trying to get, maybe, you know, as you're going for the party scene now, maybe like the young entrepreneurs that are out hustling, grinding and working early mornings, late nights, trying to transition the branding or trying to transition like the style and look? Has that been difficult to get people to buy into it?
Yeah, it's been, we previously, our domain was boomboom.energy.com. And there was a lot of confusion around that, honestly. People thought it was an energy product. Like, oh, like I'm going to sniff this and it's going to make me feel like I just drank a Red Bull. And like,
a legal form of cocaine.
Yeah.
Right?
And like, there was just a lot of misalignment. And so almost a year ago, probably we switched to BoomBoom Naturals and started kind of like lightening up our content a little bit and making it more, I wouldn't say holistic. It's still really fun and vibrant, but it's not like, hey, you're going to Electric Zoo or you're going to Coachella and like, you know, make sure you get your BoomBoom.
Yeah.
Right. And then, well, I mean, to bridge the gap, we ended up getting on Shark Tank last year, which has been, I mean, that right there has opened us up to an entirely different audience. And it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, let's go into that. I wasn't going to bring that up until a little bit later, but now that we're on the topic of it, you're somebody who literally would watch every episode of it, of Shark Tank. So what's it like for you to go from watching the show that you love and probably are learning a lot from to now, John, come on in, bring your product, you're pitching us?
The whole thing was crazy. Watching all of those episodes for all those years, it started right when I moved out to LA. And Chelsea, my wife, and I would always just sit and be like, BoomBoom would be so great on Shark Tank. It's like a very polarizing, interesting product that like would be great for TV, but it wasn't my business at the time, you know? And so I'm like, all these years we're just watching the show. And then it was last year. So it was
fall of 2018, right?
Yeah. And I had shot their casting people an email, and I was just like, hey, I think our brand would be cool for the show. Didn't hear anything for probably 6 months. They had an open call at a casino outside of LA, and I was getting ready for that. It was on a Friday. I'll never forget this. It was on a Friday. You get 1 minute to go pitch the producers. 1 minute. And I written it all out. I was prepping, and it was the Thursday before, and I got a call, and it was Shark Tank casting. And they're like, hey, are you still interested in coming on the show? Like, can you tell us about the business? I gave them the update. They're like, great. Can you get us a video in the next 5 days? And I said, yes. And so I told Chelsea, my wife, she's like, well, who's going to do it with you? She's like, can I come? I was like, sure. She's a dentist, like doesn't hurt having, and she had helped, of course, along the way, just like with any entrepreneur. I'm sure their spouse has.
The wife or the husband gets pulled right on.
Yeah. And so we shot the video together. We did the whole process together. And ultimately you kind of go in stages, and the next big stage, you send 2 videos, and then
product videos, or you just talking to the
us
camera?
Just talking to them, explaining the product, answering a few specific questions.
Gotcha.
And then once you make it past that round, you get paired up with like a team of producers, and those producers help you craft your pitch.
So is this the offers on the table now, or no, you're still in the process?
We're still in you're not guaranteed anything up to the day you're there on set waiting in the trailer to get pulled out. There's no guarantee. Like they have 10 days to shoot. We were literally the last day. So if we didn't get on that last day, we wouldn't have been on, maybe got pushed. But you get paired up with those producers. They walk you through it. They help you with your set and like what you would do. And you like kind of make a little sketch, and there's all these steps along the way. And finally, the very, I guess, final step is you go in to the Sony lot.
That's where they shoot it.
Which is where they shoot it.
Culver
which is
City. Super
funny. It's a 5-minute drive from my house. So
and they got people flying in.
Yeah, Chelsea and I are just like driving. Like, yeah, we're gonna go shoot, Shark Tank, I guess. And you go and you have to practice your pitch in front of all like 25 producers, and they give you some feedback, and then we got walked out, and they're like, hey, good job. Like, we'll let you know tomorrow if you're going to get scheduled. And, oh, by the way, like there's a guest shark on that day, and it's Charles Barkley. And this is
big,
awesome.
Big basketball guy. Already.
Yeah. Basketball from Phoenix. It was funny. I couldn't tell my buddies, but I knew they would just die.
They'll eat it up.
And ended up getting that call. And then you go and you're sitting in a trailer all day, and it's like, it's intense, man. I mean, the feeling before going on that show it's pretty wild. And they do your hair and makeup and this and that, and you go and you're at the door right before they open. I don't know if you've seen the show.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And right when those doors open, like that's your cue, and you walk down, and like there's no stopping.
Yeah.
You walk in, you hit your mark. You don't talk. You look at the sharks for 30 seconds because the camera needs to wrap around to get that certain take. And then like you hear just some random voice that's like, begin. And you just go, man. And like just goosebumps. Like you're almost like outside of your body, like watching yourself on Shark, do this. And once we made it through the pitch, which we nailed, which was amazing. You see people on there, and I feel for them who just stumble, because it is intense. But we nailed the pitch. We gave out the samples. They all really enjoyed the product, which was a huge win, because that was my biggest fear, was they tried the product and maybe it reminded them of something they didn't like. Like I've had people tell me the Wintermint, they'll try Wintermint and be like, oh, like that reminds me of my dip. You just never know. Yeah. You never know. Yeah. And so we got through that. They all liked it. And I just remember like the weight just lifted, and then we were just chatting it up, and it was fun. I walked out of there feeling like that was fun. Yeah. Which was cool.
Yeah, and it's amazing too, because it's already a show. It's not just a random opportunity. It's something that you've already been interested in watching for so long that now you're getting the chance to actually present the idea or the offer or the brand to these people. Going in, did you mentally know exactly what you were looking for?
So we went in wanting to get a deal with Lori. We felt like her speed into retail. We genuinely feel like this is a point of purchase, like impulse product. Yeah. Sitting on the counter, $4.99, like, oh yeah, I seen BoomBoom. Let me get one, right? People lose it. It's like a lighter chapstick. We just feel like it ultimately that's where we will thrive. And so we know her kind of push into retail can be pretty amazing. Very quickly get you into a bunch of stores. She kind of opted out. She said, I think it's a fad or like a one-time thing, and whatever. But all the sharks kind of went down and said what they didn't like about it or why they didn't want to invest. And then Robert ended up making us an offer. We went in asking for $300,000 for 10%, and he wanted 36% for $300,000. And
big jump.
He wasn't willing to negotiate at all. I tried to counter a couple of times, and there wasn't like a bone in my body that was like, we should take that. I knew for sure, like, no, there's no way. Right.
Yeah.
My wife, she's like, doesn't know too much about like the numbers and like the business and like what's a good deal or not. And she walked out and she's like, should we have taken that deal? Like, no,
absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But overall, I mean, I'd suggest if anybody has the opportunity to go do that, do it. It's a fun experience.
What do you think was the biggest takeaway from this entire experience for you? You didn't get the deal, you didn't get what you were looking for, but what for you was a takeaway from it?
I think for me, honestly, it was like it's a growth opportunity, something like new and different, and like get really out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like at the top, man. Very uncomfortable, like not knowing how it was going to unfold, but then kind of easing your way in and actually feeling really good about it.
Yeah.
I think that was just a big win on like the personal growth level for sure.
How much exposure is that show getting? And for people, I should have clarified this because I always assume that people probably know, like Shark Tank is a show based on businesses and people pitching ideas, and they have all these ideas, as you probably are understanding up to this point. I should have started off with that, but how much exposure is this show? Because this is on what network
ABC.
is this? ABC.
It's on ABC.
My father's a huge fan of the show, so he's gonna be fired up when I drop this podcast.
Yeah, Sunday night, ABC. Probably 8 million people at their peak view that, and a lot of people watch it on Hulu after they DVR it. It was crazy. I mean, we had a little viewing party at my house, and we had a full my ads guy, he runs all my Facebook ads and like Google Analytics and that. Full command center, like, you got
to run with something like that.
Oh,
massive.
yeah. Making sure we had everything dialed in. And it airs on the East Coast at, 3 hours earlier. So,
you still got to wait for it on the West Coast.
We have to wait. And so we were watching the East Coast air, and you're just seeing the traffic like, like go up. And there was, 10 to 12,000 people or something on the site at any given point.
Wow.
And I'm like flipping my Amazon app and my Shopify app, like things aren't like updating. I'm like, man, it's really like nobody's buying the product. And the next thing you know, like it just jumps huge because it can't keep up kind of thing. And it was exciting. We did probably as many sales in like that 30-day window as we did all of last year.
Oh, that's a huge look. And that's going to get replayed too. Like that show will get ran back again, I'm sure.
It already did, man. And so we aired October 28th, and then we got re-aired January 6th. They did a Shark Tank double header, and they re-ran our episode.
Wow.
Primetime.
Wow. Yeah. That is huge.
Huge. So we saw another big surge there, and then we ended up, we have this little edited version of like of our time in the tank that we, posted up on a couple different places. And I guess this was maybe almost a month ago now, but this is kind of funny. Some dude on Twitter, some random guy, probably has 1,000 followers. He kind of made his own little edit, and he said, "Did Shark Tank do poppers?" And if you know what poppers are, they're kind of muscle relaxers that are big in the gay community.
Yeah. And
dude, this thing caught fire. Like 5 million views, like hundreds, like thousands of retweets, like maybe 100,000 comments. Wow. And that was the start of like it going viral. Really. Yeah. There's really no other way to put it. It actually went viral. It was nuts. Like Funny Hood Vids picked it up, like Black Twitter picked it up.
That's huge.
Old Row picked it up.
Huge.
All coming up with their own, like memeing it, putting their own like funny thing on it. A lot of them were drug references because you're putting it up your nose.
I think I saw the one that was like the video. Is this drugs? Or is Charles Barkley doing drugs or something?
Yeah. So we were on like, the cover of Pride.com. Like,
wow.
Because Charles Barkley, after he tries it, he's like, it really does open you up. Like, you can't make this shit up, you know? The internet like took hold of Boom Boom for about a week and like just didn't let go. So that was fun, man. It was really cool to just get it out there even more. And like, and of course, like they're going to do the research and read about the product and find out that it is a health item and it's actually really good for you. And a portion of those people will buy and try it out.
You know what they say? Any PR is good PR.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if you got people making these funny videos and like just trying to make a joke out of it, people at the core, it's still a Boom Boom product. People are still going to be looking it up going, wait, what is this product all about? So it's just amazes me. And for people that are listening, if they wanted to go back, is there a certain season episode they can go to find like the actual viewing of it?
Yeah. So it's on, it's season 10, episode 4. It aired October 28th of last year.
Season 10, episode 4.
And I know that date because it was on my birthday.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
That's even better.
Dude, it was next level.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was fun.
Timing is everything.
Timing is everything, man.
Yeah.
Everything was like came into alignment that day. It was fun.
Man, and that's just so official too now because it's like as seen on Shark Tank, you know, like just that cosign.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Social proof, man. It gives that, it like validates like, all right, this isn't like some like joker product. Like people actually like this and they're using it.
Yeah.
Which is it's a good like validation, especially moving out of the party scene. And as we expand, like we know like our core user in that group, like we love them. Like those are our people. But we also know it's going to be a bigger brand and we have some new SKUs coming out that'll probably be a little bit more friendly to like, you know, the 40-year-old mom who's just looking to like breathe better or whatever.
And that whole audience that you just tapped into from Shark Tank, a lot of probably young entrepreneurs that watch it like yourself. So it's like, there it goes right back to the entrepreneur question I had asked earlier. Going off the product though, you also have, I've seen you have oils, like oil roll-ons. There's the focus, there's the restore, there's the mood, there's the unwind. Are there other types of products that you could possibly see happening for under the Boom Boom brand?
You know, I think about that all the time, and I have gotten caught up in like that shiny object syndrome that I think a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up on, like, oh, like we should do that or we should do that. And the oils are really kind of the only other SKU that I think will, because it's very in alignment and like it shows like we actually know a thing or two about essential oils. We're not just like pushing out these inhalers. Like there are some very specific oils and blends of oils that can really help people. So I think for now we're going to stick with those. And then my whole thing is like laser focus on the inhalers.
Yeah.
Like let's get people understanding like the benefits of like using nasal inhalers for like daily use. We're coming out with like a relax one, coming out with the nausea one specific for nausea that has like ginger oils in it. And so there's some other things we're doing, but it's going to be very specific to like the inhalers and getting people very familiar with them. And
how do people use the oils if they purchase the oils? Is that like
the roll-ons? Yeah, you roll it on your
roll it on your skin.
Yeah, you put it under your nose like down here, and they smell really good. They definitely help kind of open some things up, and it's you can make them part of your daily ritual, and it really does. You know, everybody has, I think, a different mindset around essential oils, but if you can integrate them into your life on like a regular basis, you definitely see some benefits.
Jake Cass in a movement was very similar with when I kind of was asking him about the whole idea of products and like, you know, you have this brand movement, everyone knows it for the watches, and they've, you know, danced their way into sunglasses and some other accessories. But I guess also too, just what he was very very eye on was just, we know what our product is. We're not here to kind of create all these different things. Yep. And then that's how you build a $100 million company, right?
We can take a couple notes right there.
Just
got a nice little
everything he was talking about during the pod. I'm like writing down in my mind or in my head.
He's spot on, and clearly he's built something pretty amazing. And I followed their journey too, just from afar. And it's that laser focus, man, I think is the difference between success and not.
Yeah. So keep your eyes on the prize. What, I guess, just as a brand, right? Boom Boom as the brand, because as we talked about, it went through Boom Boom Energy. Then it was kind of Boom Boom Natural. Now it's really just Boom Boom. What does this brand look like 5 years from now? I don't think you have to have it all figured out, but what do you want to see Boom Boom kind of continue to grow into?
I want BoomBoom to be as common as chapstick, gum, eye drops. It's another thing in the bag. It's right there next to all those products. I think that's the vision. And it's knowing that like it can be there and it actually fits in really well. And we just need people to try it. And the best part about that is it's already happening that way in other parts of the world. So we know that we can get there, and it's really just a matter of like keep on pressing and getting people to try it, because we know when people try it, they actually do really like it. The issue is, do they like it enough to go seek it out and order it online? And a lot of people will. We have a pretty good, return rate, but we do feel like it's a much better impulse item. And that's where we're still building the business online for sure. That's the bread and butter. But I just hired a director of sales who's starting to push us into retail, and have a few distributors on board. And now it's, how do we get that product to sell through in stores? And we're leveraging our knowledge of online marketing to bring people from their phones into the store. And we've proved some success there with a few smaller chains in like the Midwest and a couple other places. So hopefully we get that shot with one of these bigger opportunities and just kill it,
Yeah, I feel like in the picture perfect world, you just sell it all online, because then all the money is direct from the product, is right direct to consumer. There's no middleman, but the exposure and the opportunities that come from being in that convenience store like you're talking about, it's worth trying, because that could be the next big step. Or you get into Costco, you get into any of these major retail outlets that want to have you at their cash out or their checkout. Sure. It's like, we'll take that any day of the week. But I think the hardest thing, like anything else, is just getting people to try. And once you can get them to be sold into the way that the product works, and seeing how it can just help them in their day-to-day, that's when it's like, oh, I need to add this, like you're saying, the chapstick or the gum.
For sure.
Those are certain things that I always try to make sure that I have, and I'm sure people are starting to notice that with BoomBoom. We get a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast, a lot of them that are probably in the grind right now, or some that are, I think a lot of them are so interested in an idea right now, but they're just so hesitant. What would be the one piece of advice you would give to the young entrepreneurs of the world?
I'd say, you definitely got to have tunnel vision, man. You got to have tunnel vision, and you can't care about what other people think. If you believe in the product, you have to push. Like we have a lot of people who don't like our product. Like, that's fine, right? Like, this doesn't give me energy or whatever. If I listened to that, we would have been dead 5 years ago. So it's like, having that tunnel vision is super important. And then also surrounding yourself with like the right people who support you is everything. And so I think if you can do that, you'll be on your way. And it's definitely, for me, it's been about, making sure I'm aligned with people that believe in me. And I've pulled so many favors over the last 5 years with friends to like shoot videos or like help me build out my financial model or like this or that. And it's all because they know me, they respect me, they believe in what we're doing. And like, you can't build something unless you have that core around you. And, you got to stay focused on that. And if there's people that don't bring you up, you got to get rid of them. Yeah. Gary Vee, he talks about that all the time, and he's pretty loud about it. It's the truth though, right? Yeah. It's like, hey, stop hanging out with these people. Don't like go out and rage every weekend. Like, you gotta stay focused, right?
Yeah. It's people like Gary Vee screaming that I know some people can be like, all right, I get it. But there are a lot of people that don't understand that. Or even before I really got into this whole podcast, I didn't really fully understand the value of surrounding myself with passionate people, how much that was going to inspire me, how much that was going to help me keep going. And I think and we kind of started this conversation off of just like the importance of having a vision and knowing that nobody's going to fully understand it as much as you do. And it is a long journey, as I'm sure it has been for you, as it's been for me. But it's like, once you start to see these little successes start to add up, especially when you get something major like Shark Tank, that just adds so much gas to your fire for the next like 5 years. It's
for sure.
I just need to keep going at this point.
100%.
I had seen in your Instagram bio, it said, always won't open new doors. elaborate on this.
Yeah, that's
Very,
actually
I love it.
Yeah, so that's actually a message that my dad has up in his office, and I feel like it really resonates with me and like who I am as a person. And I think there's a lot of people, especially kind of in like the health and wellness realm, who just don't feel good, right? They wake up, they have low energy, they have chronic issues, this, that, the other. Like, if you're not willing to do things differently, things aren't going to change. And so if you want to open up new doors, you're going to have to create some new patterns in your life. And when you do that consistently over time, amazing things will happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's a message that people really, need to think about. And if you want something, whether it's, friends or success or being healthy, right? Like, I think that's the most important thing. You got to be willing to do what it takes. And with the amount of information at our fingertips very quickly, like, you can find solutions to your problems. There's a lot of info out there. I'd recommend looking up a nice variety, but you can pretty quickly filter out, who's legit and who's not.
Yeah.
And stick to a plan and go for it. You know?
I think that's the thing, man. It's like there's so much information out there nowadays, especially with interviews and podcasts. Like, you can figure out how to reverse engineer your problem and figure out what the solution is. But I think for the majority, there's a lot of people that just assume it's just naturally going to happen, or they're making these bullshit excuses of why they can't make the change, and they keep doing the thing that they hate, and there's so many excuses. But it's important to realize, like, enough is enough. I need to make a change in my life.
Yeah.
And whatever that might be, just do it. Like, I mean, there's only so many ways we can say it. And I know sitting across from a young entrepreneur himself who's been doing it, you get it. I get it. Most of the people that I bring on this podcast, they get it. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely a good amount of people that they just, for some reason or another, they haven't learned the concept, or they just keep assuming that tomorrow it's just gonna figure itself out. When it's like, you have to stop and make a pivot in order to see a healthier lifestyle, in order to wake up and love what you do. And there's all these sacrifices along the way, but it's like, I'd rather chase something for the rest of my life, knowing that, just having that passion and that purpose versus hating what I do. And I don't know, that's just something from me from the jump. I just knew that I will never allow myself to keep opening a door to some bullshit that I don't want to do.
Yeah. And it's also about, like, and that's just so spot on. And I think, and I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are, is like having some layer of accountability to help you. Right. And it's like, it's really hard to have that layer of accountability when it's just you kind of doing your own thing. So you need to have a mentor, you need to have a girlfriend, a wife, a friend, like, who really believes in you and what you're doing, and like have some sort of system of like checks and balances to make sure like you're doing the stuff that you need to do to get to where you want to go. And like, more recently, I'm on like a 30-day like social media detox. I was like, Chelsea and I, my wife, we would find ourselves at night, we put our son Peter to bed, and there was like an hour to an hour and a half of like us being in the same room but not talking. And like, the next thing you know, it's like 7 or 8:30, and then it's like we go to bed pretty early, and like the whole night is shot. And I was like, this doesn't work, like and so we were like, let's try and create a new habit. We did it together. We deleted Instagram, Facebook, my Shopify app, my Amazon app, because I was like going in circles, like just like looking at these things. I'm like wasting so much time, and it's hard to do. And I found myself, even the night I deleted the apps, I found myself grabbing for my phone to look at those things. So it's like, it's this like unconscious behavior that you kind of get sucked into. Yeah. But you can break through that when you have some layer of accountability. It's not, it's easier said than done, but setting up some sort of system where you can get put in check a little bit, I think is super important.
I agree. I think a couple things. One, you have to have at least that one person. My buddy Dylan, who I was telling you about, the music guy, I grew up with him. He's been my like go-to person. And the fact that I live with him makes it even more helpful. But in all honesty though, too, it's like, you just have to be real with yourself. Like, you have to be accountable to your own actions and your own decisions. I know that at the end of the day, he's not responsible for me. He's there as a shoulder to lean on when I need help or when I need a little bit of a kick to get back on track.
Absolutely.
But literally, I look at the person I see in the mirror and that's it. Yep. Like before podcasts, it's weird, bro. I literally like will go into the bathroom or like this mirror out there, and I'm just like positive reinforcements. Like, you're going to do a great job. You're going to make this the best possible podcast ever. You are heading down the right path. You need to keep staying consistent. You need to keep pushing out this great content. You need to believe in yourself. You need to just keep your head down, keep your eyes on the prize, like all these positive affirmations.
Yes.
Because I know it is me. It's on me. It is nobody else's responsibility. People have other things they have to worry about. So it's like, if I want this shit to happen, podcast, business, boom, boom, or anything in this world, it's like, I have to do it. And another thing Gary Vee always preaches, like, nobody wants to hear the excuses. Yep. Like, we all have these different journeys that we're going down, and your childhood was different from mine, and this, that, and everything in between. But it's, what are you gonna do? Yep. You're gonna spend all day just complaining and thinking about why you weren't born into a rich family, why you didn't get lucky and get that opportunity that you wanted. So it's like, I have those few people in place that I can call when I need, but I know at the end of the day, it's literally just on me. Yeah. And the social media thing, I completely agree with. It's something that I've been really working on the last 2 or 3 months. And what I preach to people is, look at it like food. If you consume too much, or you're consuming the wrong things, it's going to affect you.
Absolutely.
Being a content creator, trying to build a self brand, I recognize that I need to be out there until I get to a point where, like, I'm established. Yep. So what I've gotten very good at is I produce, but I don't consume as much. Yep. And I'm screaming at myself, John. I'm in the gym in the morning, making sure I post up my thing, let people know you win the morning, you win the day, show them the grind.
Dude, I love it.
I get right out of there though.
I see those posts, man.
Bro,
I love it.
Post and I get out.
It's
post
very
and I get
intentional.
Out. Yes.
It's intentional.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing, is when you do those things with intent.
Yes.
All day long.
Yes.
You know, and it's unfortunate that most people, myself included, get caught up in that, you know, kind of just conditioned way of like, oh, like this becomes habitual. Yeah. And it's like that burning desire. It's like, how do you pass that off to somebody else? You know, you want them to be like, look, like, here's what you need to do, but it's gotta come from within at the end of the day, man. And it's it's crazy.
Social media is another world. It really is. If people think about it, it's like you're living in another world, and there's so many positive things that come from it. There's also negatives, but I think you just have to be very aware of the balance. Yeah. And if you're paying attention to certain people that are uplifting and helping you get through the day, please keep consuming social media, because I'll tell you right now, that first year of launching this podcast, I know for a fact I would have found a way. Yep. But that first year, I was every single day listening and watching to Gary Vee. Every day. And that got me through that first year, that first hump of staying consistent, and nobody really knows what you're doing. Nobody understands the vision. People like him and a couple others, that was what kept me going. So it was necessary for me to consume the media. Yep. But then it got to a point where I realized I need to just go out and create and do these things. I'm so busy doing that I don't have time to consume. But I just think people have to be very aware of what are they consuming, how much of it, because there are a lot of positives and there's a lot of opportunity that the internet provides, as we're seeing here today with BoomBoom.
Dude, I DM for 6 months straight. Day. I was on my phone for hours, you know, and it's like, it's with intent, you know, and I think we got to just focus on that and make sure you're following people that lift you up. Yeah. And like, that's why I love following you, man. Like, I know when I get that story fed to me, or I'm getting that clip on my feed, like, I listen to it because I know it's going to make me feel good, or I'm going to get some little wisdom or golden nugget out of it. Yeah. And I actually went through and, like, you know, unfollowed a bunch of people that just didn't make sense to follow anymore. Right. It's like, hey, what works for you, you know?
You got to clean that slate. You got to make it fresh, clean out people if you need to, and just make sure that whatever you are consuming online, it's helping you. It doesn't have to be all these self-help people, but it needs to be things that you want to see. Like if it's something you catch yourself comparing, it's like unfollow.
Things you want to attract, right?
Yes.
That's the big thing. It's like, surround yourself with things that you you want in your life too.
Yeah. I had seen I was scrolling on the IG for another thing. I always look for little gems in there. But you had a hat that said be a good person. And I thought that was so simple, but it actually speaks so loudly that I think so many people don't do. How has that helped you? Just being a good person in the world.
Yeah. Shout out to that company too, by the way. Be a good person brand. Follow them on Instagram.
Oh, let's go.
They're dope, man.
Let's go.
I met them at Red Rocks. We were vending at an event at Red Rocks out in Colorado, and they were like just slinging t-shirts, man. Like, be a good person. I'm like, it's like it says like the most basic concept. Like, that's their slogan. I'm like, I love this.
It.
And they came up to the booth, and like we just, we hit it off. I gave them some product, or they bought it. I'm pretty sure they were awesome. And I've just stayed connected with them ever since. I ordered their stuff. I got the hat. Like, it really is such a basic message, and it's so simple to actually do. It's just like, be a good person. And I feel very blessed coming from a loving family that really instilled that in me, and like having empathy and like really trying to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, I think goes so far. And I do that in every situation I'm in, is really looking at the other person's side and trying to relate, because you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what they have going on in your life. And when you can realize that, and you can look at somebody eye to eye and just try and vibe with them, like, that's what it's all about. And you do that from your heart, at the end of the day, that comes from your heart. And it's, it's just one of those things I love connecting with people. I love meeting people, hearing people's stories. And it's just a simple thing, is like staying connected. And I feel like we need more of that. Yeah. We need more of that genuine, like, authenticity between people.
Yeah. And that perspective thing, I think, is super important. I think that is huge, because if something bad happens to you from somebody else, you kind of just reverse it as into, okay, so why did this person do that? Well, maybe they weren't raised in an environment where they were taught to be a good person, to be helpful, or to just say good things, and not, if you have anything bad to say, don't say it all. Like, those simple things that I was taught at a young age, I've tried to realize that maybe this person wasn't taught that, and just all I can do is be accountable to my own actions and being that good person. But people even ask me, it's like, how do you network with all these people? I literally told somebody in a recent podcast, like, literally just being a good person. What they asked me, what's like your greatest trait? And I said, literally, sounds cliche, could sound corny, but one of my strongest traits is being a good person. If I like something, I'll applaud. If I don't, I keep my mouth shut. I don't try to look for favors. I just try to like stay in my lane, stay focused, cheer people on. But I don't know. I think it's just so simple, and that's why I loved it when I saw the hat. I said, man, it's true.
It's true, man.
Be a good person, and things fall into place. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
What's the saying? It's like, I'd rather you ask for forgiveness than permission. I think in business especially, it's when you're doing something different and unique and you don't really have all the answers, you don't want to like do people wrong by any means, but you got to push, you got to push the limits a little bit. And, if somebody gets upset about it, and they'll let you know, and like, okay, take a step back. I think, a couple of examples for my business specifically was like right at the beginning, like going out and shooting a video at some festival, and we put it up online and we promoted our brand. We were driving people to the website, and we got a bunch of traction on it. And then we got a cease and desist from like Live Nation, right? It's like, hey, rather ask, you want to ask for permission on that? No, you kind of push the limit a little bit, and they'll let you know. And little things like that, I think very applicable in business, even with my team. Like, look, guys, I've hired you because you fit in really well. I trust you. I believe in you. Like, if you think you need to do this, go make it happen. If something screws up, like, that's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. And I think that goes a long way, especially when you start managing people. You want to get people on board that you can fully just trust. And like, if they come to you because something bad happened, well, they likely didn't like want it to go that way. Right. But you want them take that ownership and some of those risks on their own.
Huge when you can get people on board that are there for the right reasons, because you know that if something bad does happen, you know that it wasn't intentional, that they're looking out in the best interest of the company. They believe in the product. It means just as much to them as it does to you.
Yep.
And then I think that's growth.
Yeah.
To get the right growth, you need the right people around you.
100%.
You can't do it as a one-man team. It's literally impossible.
Yeah.
You need the people.
You need people. I think I said right at the beginning of the podcast, I definitely like held on a little bit too tight for too long, because I thoroughly enjoyed coming from a place where I was like managing people and like had a big team for those first couple of years of BoomBoom. Like I thoroughly enjoyed like not having to like manage people, but you can only go so far with a one-man show.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's when you realize, hey, you got to get some help.
Yeah.
You know, get some more people.
Bringing some people onto the team.
Get some more focused attention on the brand. And once we did that and I kind of got out of my own way, I hired 2 people. And ever since then, it's just been kind of off to the races.
What do you think John's purpose is?
So I think after BoomBoom, I feel very strongly pulled into educating people around food and the importance of like eating real food. I think we're seeing like a crazy amount of like chronic health issues in like our youth, and it's incredibly sad. And a lot of that stems from what they're putting in their body. And so I think a big part of my purpose is to kind of bring light to that. And I think BoomBoom definitely fits into that role, right? It's an all natural product. It's something different where people, hey, maybe they're not going to consume that Red Bull or whatever it is that's super sugary and not very good for you if you're crushing them all day long. So I think ultimately that's kind of my bigger mission, is shedding light on that and really helping people, you know, and there's a lot of people who are struggling with some of that. And it's the crazy thing. And I've had my eyes open to it because I've had some kind of random weird symptoms pop up that I went down the rabbit hole and like, I read a bunch of stuff and like, I literally like healed myself through just eating good. And I was like, my whole, and I grew up in a like holistic, healthy family. And then, you know, high school, college, out in LA, just kind of started doing whatever I wanted, eating whatever I wanted, drinking all the time, whatever. And it just, dude, it wrecked me.
Yeah.
And I got to a place where I was like, okay, like I shouldn't be having some of these like brain fog and like a few other things. And I was like, I'm going all in with this. And I like 2 months of just like eating super clean, and like, I'm kid you not, everything changed for me.
Yeah.
And that was me coming from that kind of holistic family background. So I'm trying to imagine what some of these other people who didn't have that growing up are like facing and feeling. And it's a very simple solution, but it's very difficult because you're just so like tied to like eating stuff that like isn't very good for you. It's an addiction.
Yeah.
You know,
I speak very loudly on this podcast about eating the right foods, working out, clearing your mind through meditation. Very, very big, because there's no way that I would be operating the way I do right now. I get up at 6 a.m. every morning. I'm in the gym by 6:30, Monday through Saturday. I eat, you know, I have clean protein shakes. I'll have chicken and broccoli for lunch, chicken salad for dinner, yogurt for a snack in between. That's religious. And the only way I'm able to work from, you know, get up at 6, usually hopefully sleeping by 11, is because I feed like we are a vehicle. And it's like, if you're not feeding the vehicle the right things, what's going to happen? You're not going to be operating. I'm huge on operating at my full potential.
Yes.
I still don't have it fully dialed in. I know there's little knickknacks that I can do to help reach my highest potential, but I am big on, you think having a cheeseburger with French fries in the middle of the day is going to help you productive for the rest of the day? You're absolutely out of your mind. Do I want to eat that every day? Yes.
Of course.
Do I want a pizza? Yes. Do I want some cookies tonight after I get back from working? Yes. But that discipline, that accountability of knowing that it's going to help me continue to work hard, that's what it's all about. Huge. I'm huge on the health
And when you
aspect.
start feeling better,
yes,
it's like, oh my gosh. And like, I'm not saying like don't indulge, man. Like I eat
gotta
ice
live
cream.
a
I
little.
do these things
Yeah.
for sure. But like, you have to have that foundation and that baseline of like good stuff.
Yes.
Because if you don't, you're, long term, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And it's I started seeing that early on, and I was like, no. Like I ended up losing like 30 pounds. I didn't even feel like I was like overweight, but I was just like full like body inflammation, and I just like started eating good, and I work out and stuff, and it's been a game changer. And meditation, to your point, I actually in April, I guess it was, I took a TM course, Transcendental Meditation. It's just like it's like a mantra based like a technique, and been trying to implement that. I mean, every day, twice a day for 20 minutes. And I mean, that's been a game changer.
Huge.
I mean, just sitting there and closing your eyes, it's unbelievable. Like
huge.
How big of an impact that can have.
Yeah.
And I don't think, if you would have asked me a year ago if I would be meditating every day, I would have said, you are crazy.
Yeah,
I said, you are crazy.
I get it.
And, the more you read, the more research you do, like Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of Titans, like the common theme among all of those people, basically, the one thing they all do is they all meditate or have some form of mindfulness in their day where they're like intentionally like slowing things down.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that I was on that train earlier.
Yeah.
And everybody's on their own path and whatever. And so you can't like look back and like judge or whatever, but it is funny to now have that other perspective and being like, dang man, like I wonder where I would be if I were doing these things when I was like in my mid 20s,
And the thing is too, is you realize, as I'm sure you're seeing, is that the meditating techniques you're learning, it's helping you outside of even that 20 minutes a day. Because when stressful things happen in my life or things aren't going, or when I'm getting anxious before guests get here, I'm just like, chill.
Yeah.
Just breathe.
Yep.
Present moment, like I was saying earlier, just chill. Everything's going to be all right. But huge.
And even like the little things, man, like going and like making eye contact with people, like when you're like at Starbucks or whatever, like I just notice so much more now. And I'm like, I feel so much more present.
Yeah.
And it just makes life more fun.
Yeah.
You're there in the moment.
Yeah. It's huge, man. It just makes that's a great way to say it. You're more in the moment. It makes it more fun. And you're not, I don't want to say taking advantage of, but you're not just like ahead of where you actually are right now. You're like living in that presence, and it helps tremendously. Before I get into closing questions, this is when I reverse the role. I clean the slate. I allow the guest to ask me any one question. 2 rules. 1, it can't be a question that I asked you today. 2, it can't be a question directly about the podcast.
Got it.
Any one question, something you want to know about me. I'll fire up some boom boom in between.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, that's just good. It's good shit. That's good stuff, man.
Love it.
Melon drop.
So, how many people have you?
121 on the board, baby.
121.
Putting numbers on the board,
dude.
Let's go.
That's what's up, man. Persistence, consistence.
Let's go.
What's the biggest, I guess, thing that you've implemented into your life that you heard from one of your?
Oh man.
From one of your, because you're getting like, I mean, some amazing content and talking to some amazing people. It's like,
dude, many.
Is there like 1 or 2 like where you're just like, you do this every day because so and so said this?
Dude, I mean, I'm thinking there are so many. There's just like as I look at each picture, I just see the takeaway, the gem.
That's awesome.
I'll go off of one that was episode 111. Just I literally can't even pick a certain 1 or 2, but because of what we were just talking about, it's very relevant. Episode 111 with Charlie Rocket. He used to be the manager of 2 Chainz. He's at Charlie on Instagram.
I listened to that one.
Great content.
Amazing
Dude. One thing that he's been pushing heavily on right now, and something that I really agree with, is I'm on a winning streak. That's his whole thing. And it's kind of like what we were just talking about. I was about to mention it, but I was like, nah, it's not the time. That's a whole nother conversation. But here it is. Looking at everything as a winning streak. Like you coming in today on this podcast, that's a win. Yeah. You're going to leave. I'm going to go hop in my car and drive Uber for the rest of the night. That's a win. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get back. I'm going to be able to have a glass of water before I go to sleep, that's a win. Like looking at every little thing in your day-to-day grind as a win and how it's positively helping you. Just that little bit has made me realize like, damn, everything is a winning streak, you know? And even the setbacks, I'm like, yep, that's a win. It's firing me up even more. I'm trying to think of other, man, it's just.
On his episode too, I think it was him where he said like, he has like these goggles on and like, they're just like everything he looks at now. It's like, is it going to give you energy or take away energy?
Yes.
And I was like, I listened and I was like, yes, like that's exactly right.
We're talking about food. He's talking about, is this alive? Is it dead or is it alive? If he looks at that lettuce, he's seeing green. He's seeing positivity. He needs to consume that. But if he looks at that jar of something that could be on the shelf for 10 years, is that alive? No, it's not. So good, man. I know.
That's an epic
brought
way to look at it.
Gems, man. His energy is just like something I couldn't even put into words. But I think that's just to make it easy. That's probably one of them. But other than that, there is always some type of takeaway. There's always some gem. It's pretty amazing because I just end up taking all these little life lessons and just incorporating into my day-to-day. Another big one, just to bring him back into picture, was Jake Casson of Movement. He talked about early on in the podcast about, looking back at the last couple of years. Yeah, he has all the success, but he was so head down and so like all in on his project that he felt like, I don't want to take the words out of his mouth, or I might be rephrasing this wrong, but he just felt like he wasn't picking up his head enough and not living anything except working. He even talked about how on his commutes to and from work every day, he was always making sure he's listening to audiobooks and learning. And so I think it's super important. You have to go head down. You have to build something great. You got to go all in. Yep. But that was another lesson that I even was learning from a couple, like back in January, of just kind of hitting a wall myself and, coming back from being at home and seeing family and literally being at zero to getting right back and kicking up to 100 miles an hour. It's just, I hit a wall and I've made a lot of realizations since. But that was another recent takeaway. But yeah, man, it's just, there's so many, like all the gems and all the lessons I've been learning are all in the titles of the podcast. That's the lesson. Cool. So it's like when I'm listening to the podcast, I look for these sound bites. There's so many other gems. There's so many little gems along the way. But to me, personally, once again, selfishly, what's the takeaway? Yeah. And so that's why I can scroll back and read all of the titles of the podcast, and I can tell you exactly why that was titled that. And I can tell you and you can play the episode, and you hear it within the first 60 seconds. Yep. So it's just kind of banking all these little lessons that I'm learning and just trying to put it out there to the world. It's awesome, man. Yeah, it's been an incredible ride, and we're still just getting warmed up. We're still just getting started. I know, man. It's exciting. Always exciting. Closing questions for you. One, even though you're not on social media, where can people find you? I'll be back on. You'll be back on? In like 2 weeks. He's coming back. Yeah, I'm definitely coming back. John's coming back. It was, just like I respect it. Quick little leave of absence. I respect it. Where can people find you on social media, and where can they find BoomBoom? Yeah, so my Instagram handle is Johnny_BoomBoom, JOHNNY_BoomBoom. Yep. And then the BoomBoom social handle is @BoomBoomNaturals. And yeah, man. That's where they can find you. That's where they can find us. Make sure you guys head over to Johnny's personal IG, drop a bunch of Bearded Man emojis on his recent post, and he'll know that you came from the Bearded Man podcast. Love it. Before I ask the last question, thank you for coming in today, man. Oh, man. Thanks for having me, man. This has been an honor. Appreciate it, brother. I respect the hustle you have for this brand. I really appreciate the love that you've even showed on my content, chiming in here and there over the last, 4 or 5 months, and especially sending me a bunch of product back in the fall. It's appreciated. And coming in today to share the story, this is what this podcast is all about. I love that even the win of hearing you get to go on Shark Tank, to me, I'm just fired up because I know what that's like when I get some of these bigger guests on the show that I'm dreaming of getting. To get yourself on a show like that, it's cool to see. Well, I'll drop one more little nugget on you, which happened on Monday. Dude, this was crazy. So I'm in this conference, Traffic and Conversion, right? We were talking about, and I get a text from this girl my wife and I know, and it's a screenshot of like a video, and it's our Shark Tank clip on Ellen.
And I was like, I thought it was fake. I thought it was fake. I was like, okay, I hit the play button. And like, no, like she did her stand-up was funny things happening on reality TV right now. And she legit, like, we were on Ellen. we were on Ellen on Monday. So we like shot this video and we're going to like literally like geo-target her office and like make sure all of her people see it.
Yeah.
Because we're going to try and like
get something out of it.
Yeah.
So wait, what was the clip?
Like, the clip was basically our like edited down thing. And it was like, hey, like Shark Tank's been on for about 10 years now. And you know, they've been on for a while when this is what they're falling for. And they show them all like sniffing the product and like going like, woo, woo. And then after it, she's like, and next week on Shark Tank, an intervention. I lost it.
I love that.
I lost it, dude.
I love that.
It was pretty funny. So it's like, you just never know where things are going to pop up, man. You never know.
Yeah.
And I would have never expected to be like shooting a video this week with Chelsea, trying to get Ellen's attention.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you just never know what's going to happen. It's all these little steps, like one by one. And you just have to be open to the possibility of those things happening and put yourself in those positions. And it's like crazy things.
This podcast is going to roll out. You're going to be on Ellen. I'm like, yep, that's right. This podcast. Yep. This guy was on here before Ellen. So hit me up. Now I'm blowing up. So I'm going to utilize that. I'm going to reverse engineer the content.
Let's go.
And start spreading it.
That's awesome.
Last question for you. For somebody who's listening, hasn't found that passion, hasn't found that purpose just yet, what's the best 2 to 3 pieces of advice you'd give them?
Be a yes person. I think when I started at Healthy Vending way back in the day, I said yes to everything that needed to get done. You know, I was traveling, I was doing this, I was doing that. And like, I literally just didn't say no. I just said yes, yes, yes. And I was learning. And so say yes to things, put yourself in a position to grow. And like, when things feel uncomfortable, like, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, that is a really, really good thing. It's when you're not having those feelings consistently where you probably need to like reevaluate and see how you can get more of those feelings in your day to day. Yeah. That's like the biggest things, man, is say yes to new things, new adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, really just be open to those things and don't be afraid.
Love it.
Yeah, man.
John Pinto. Thanks for coming in, my man.
Appreciate it, brother. You're the man. This is awesome.
This has been great. We'll catch you guys next time. See ya.